In this video, we're going to take a look at parallel lines and solving angles in parallel lines. Now, in the last video, we talked about identifying different angle pairs inside of parallel lines. We're going to move a little bit past that. We're going to keep the same theme here, but we're going to look at actually solving different angles in parallel lines. And we're going to use those different angle pairs to help us figure it out. So let's first talk about vertical angles. So vertical angles, that'd be like 1 and 4 here. Vertical angles are congruent. Actually, this whole list here is congruent. And remember, congruent doesn't just mean equals. Well, it means equals, but it's usually what we use for shapes, for angles, things like that. So numbers get equal signs, shapes and angles, they get congruent signs. So vertical angles, they're equal. Alternate interior angles, so that'd be like 4 and 5 would be alternate interior. Those are also congruent. Alternate exterior, 1 and 8 would be congruent, and corresponding, something like 2 and 6. And there's more angle pairs than these, but these are the ones I'm listing. Those would all be the same size. They're all congruent. So for example, if angle 2 is 70, angle 6 is also going to be 70 degrees. Now, there's also an angle pair that we talked about, same side interior, that is not congruent. So same side interior, that'd be like 3 and 5 or 4 and 6. These are not equal, they are supplementary. Remember, supplementary means they add up to equal 180. Now, we're going to use these properties to help us solve for all the angles in parallel lines. So let's look at this first one. I've got angle 1 is equal to 113, solve for the missing angle. So I put a 113 up here. And I know that vertical angles are equal, so angle 4 is vertical. Now I also know corresponding angles are equal. So I could look at 4 and 8 and recognize this is also 113. Those are corresponding. Or another way I could do this is alternate interior. I know 4 and 5 are 113. Now be careful. They're not all 113. It's just 1, 4, 5, and 8. Now, I also know that same side interior angles, like 4 and 6 here, they add up to 180. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do 180 minus 113, and I get 67 degrees. So this is 67 degrees, and then I actually can do the exact same thing I did last time, 67, 67. And in fact, actually, let me do this. Let's put these 67s in a different color so we can kind of see if we can find a pattern here when we're solving these lines. So 67, 67, 67, 67. And what do we notice? We notice almost like there's like a Z shape here. You see that Z shape? Like every other corner. So one way to solve for angles is to think about our angle pairs, but another way to solve for angles in parallel lines is actually just to look at them. Angles in parallel lines are either equal or supplementary. Those are your two options. If they look the same size, they are the same size. If they don't look the same size, they're not the same size. So let's take a look at this one. Are these angles the same or are they supplementary? Well, these are vertical angles and they're both obtuse. They look the same size, so they're just going to be the same. That's going to be 118. Easy as that. Let's look at the next one. What angle pair is this? Well, remember, think of this like a street. We're inside the street, so it's interior, so it's either same side interior, alternate interior. I recognize that these angles are not on the same side of the transversal. These are alternate interior. That means they are equal to each other, and they look the same size. They're both obtuse. Let's look at maybe two more here. All right, so this one, I'm inside the parallel lines. I'm on the same side. That means these are same side interiors. So I'm going to subtract from 180 to get x, and I get 119 for my x value, 119. All right, and then last one, we've got 72 degrees. And then 72 and 1, those are corresponding angles, so those are going to be equal. They look the same size. And then 1 and 2, that's a supplementary angle pair right there, right? We don't want to forget what we learned about angle pairs outside of parallel lines, like supplementary, complementary, things like that. I'm just going to go ahead and subtract that from 180, and I get 108. So that wraps up the first part of solving for angles. So this is part 1. We're solving for angles. In part 2, we're going to take a look at solving for x. So here's what I'd like you to do. Watch part 1, do the first part of the Delta Math assignment. Watch part 2 and do the second part of the Delta Math assignment.